Today is January 15th, 2007. We're at the home of Mr. Victor Bernhardt at his home in Windsor, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans Oral History Project. Welcome, Mr. Bernhardt.
Thank you, and welcome to you, Brad.
Let's start out, if we could. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, when and where you were born?
Okay. I was born April 22nd, 1924, in the town of Loveland, Colorado. My father and mother were Adam and Amelia Bernhardt, and I was one of a family of 13, and I graduated from high school in Loveland in 1942.
How did you rank in the 13th? What were you?
I have to think a minute, Brad. Florine, Leonard, Harold. I was the fourth from the bottom, the fourth one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I graduated in 42, like I said, and then I went to work in Denver, and finally I wound up getting married in 1943 to my wonderful wife, Leona. And in 1944, I was inducted into the Army. I was drafted on January the 28th of 1944, and our daughter was born January the 30th, 1944, 2 days after I left.
So were you able to get a chance to see her before you shipped overseas? Or?
Yes, I did. Everybody always used to make fun in the service. Go see the chaplain. Well, somebody told me that, and I went to see the chaplain. And I got a 12-hour leave from Denver to Windsor. And I was lucky because I had a brother that lived in Denver. And I called him and asked him if I could use his car. He brought it over to me, and I took him back home to his house, and I drove to Windsor, and I didn't drive slow. I came to Windsor, saw my wife and daughter, visited with them, I think for about 2 hours, maybe not even that long, and I had to head back to Denver, and I made it in 12 hours, and then I don't remember what day we shipped out, but I wasn't there very long in Denver at Induction Center, which is called what?
Let's see. I don't see it here, but like Fort Logan or somewhere down.
Yeah, I think so. No, not Fort Logan.
Yeah, I don't see it listed here, but
anyway, I was in the down there for a few days, and then we shipped out.
So when would have been the next time then you saw your wife and daughter after that?
About 6 months later, when I got a furlough for 2 weeks after our training.
So from Denver you shipped out where for your boot camp?
North Carolina, Camp Butner, North Carolina, the Chigger country. There's chiggers there by the millions. And when we went on bivouac, that's when we had to sleep out in our tents and everything. I think we would go for 2 weeks. And by the time the bivouac was over with and we went back to camp, we were loaded with chiggers. We were itching all over. And it's a little bitty old red bug, just looked like a lice or something, but you itch like crazy. Well, anyway, after 6 months when I came home to see my wife and daughter, then they went back to Camp Butner with me. And we rented a room at a little old lady's house. Mrs. Wilson was the landlord. And my wife stayed there while I was in camp. And that was at What town was that, honey? Rollins? No. Anyway, it was just about 12 miles or so from camp, this town. And I'd go in on the weekends. I'd get a couple of days or leave, you know, to go and see her. And there were some of the other guys from our company that lived at the same place. Yeah.
Now, while at boot camp, were you put into your specialty by then, or when did you move into your specialty?
Right away, we were went into the 292nd Combat Engineers, and first of all, we had to take infantry training, which lasted, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or so. Then after that, we started doing our training, what our jobs were supposed to be, like building bridges, building roads, dynamiting bridges, blowing up bridges, whatever.
Now, how did you get into the engineers? Did you have background from your
I
work
didn't.
experience, or how did that come to be?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. When I got down to Denver, I wanted to go into the Air Force, and my eyes were so bad they wouldn't take me, so I wound up in the engineers, or in that outfit. Now, how they determine where we belong or not, but I was a farmer, you know. I was born and raised on the farm, so maybe that had something to do with it, because otherwise I don't know why. But I became a carpenter in our training, and we built a lot of makeshift bridges. The Bailey Bridge, which was all steel, and we built pontoon bridges, which is rubber rafts. We built more of them than anything. I think we only built one Bailey Bridge in Germany.
Now, from your time in Denver to boot camp to when you shipped out, did you travel with? Did any group of guys stay with you through that whole time, or any friends, or were you?
Oh yeah, we were all together and we stayed together.
From the very beginning?
Yeah, because we were a battalion. That's 3 companies: A Company, B Company, C Company, and I was in B Company. Excuse me. And we all went together. Of course, I didn't know everybody like A Company, B and C Company, but I knew all of the guys in B Company. And we were very close, all of us. Yeah.
So from your training then, you did your training down in North Carolina as well, or did you go somewhere else after boot camp for training?
No, in Camp Butner, North Carolina. We were there all the time. We were there from, I don't know, early February until
February of '44?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Until October. Then we shipped out to New York, to a camp there called can't think of the name of that camp right now.
It's okay.
Kilroy. That's all. You know, it's Kilroy was here. Signs all over it.
Right. Yeah.
Kilroy was here. Well, anyway, we went by train, I think, from Camp Butner to Camp Kilroy.
Did your wife and daughter follow you up there, or did they return
No,
home?
they went home.
Okay.
She went to Michigan from there to see some of her relation, and then from there she went home.
Okay.
But we were in Camp Kilroy, or what they called it anyway. Just a couple of days, few days, and we shipped overseas on November I think it was November the 11th.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And took us 11 days to get from New York to England.
Can you talk a little bit about that ride over? I've heard all sorts of horror stories about.
Oh man, when we went over, I don't know, I don't remember how many ships there were in our convoy, but a bunch of them, because they had all our equipment and the whole battalion and everything.
Was there still worries about U-boats and such at that time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we got caught in a storm. Oh man, I tell you, that the wind waves was as high as the deck, and the water would splash over onto the deck, and the guys got sick, and you couldn't even stand up in the hole.
How did a farmer from Loveland fare on that ship? Did you get your sea legs, or did you get sick?
No,
or?
I didn't get sick.
Yeah.
And but there was puke everywhere, vomit everywhere. You couldn't even stand up down in the hole. But I was on, and we had to stand guard duty. Someone take turns, you know. And I was standing guard duty that one day, and that ship was rocking and rolling. And a guy came up out of the hole, and I wasn't sick. I felt okay. When he came out of that door, through that door, there was vomit spurting about 3 feet in front of him. Well, that upset my stomach, and then I got sick and vomited. But then I was okay. I stayed on guard till my time was up. But it was a terrible, terrible storm. Yeah. And I think we landed at Alton Park, England. And when we got there, we did some more training, building more bridges, and just, what shall I say, make sure we had everything right in our minds, what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And when we shipped out there, I landed in Harve, France. It was just across the channel, you know, from England. And when we got there, we landed in these boats that, what do you call them, duck boats, I don't know.
Okay,
The back end would drop down, and you'd run out the back and onto shore. Well, you had to run through some water before you got to shore, because they couldn't get that close to the shore. And it was raining pitiful. And when we got gathered there, and we were lucky when we landed, the Germans were pushed back already.
Okay.
So nobody fired at us.
So this was shortly after D-Day then, when you guys landed?
Before.
Oh, before
D-Day, yeah. But then we hitchhiked 11 miles, I think it was, in the rain, and then we stopped and put up our tents, and that's where we stayed overnight. But then the next day we got in the trucks, and they hauled us. And when we left there, we went through the Battle of the Bulge. And when we were there in Belgium, traveling at night, we heard these buzz bombs going overhead. We didn't know what they were. Wow, what in the world's going on?
Can you explain to us what a buzz bomb is?
It was a, how should I say, a bomb that they fired at everybody, like a missile, you know. But it would buzz like crazy. They called them buzz bombs. But we found out later that we were going in the wrong direction. We were headed right into the Nazis, and they were shooting at us. But anyway, the time they found out, we got turned around and went the right direction. We wound up in Merkstein, Germany. And that's where we got bombed for the first time. We lost big 2.5 ton truck that was pulling a big trailer with oh, what did they have on there? Bulldozer. It was a big bulldozer, and we got hit and we lost them, but no men got hurt. Nobody got hurt. It was during the night when they hit us. They knew where we were.
What was going through your mind? Can you explain to people like myself that couldn't even begin to imagine what it's like to be shelled or bombed, and what's going through your mind during this time, and what's it like? What can you describe what it?
You're scared. You're scared. I mean, you're really afraid. And when we walked guard duty, it was in the wintertime, when we got there.
It's one of the worst winters that Europe had experienced.
I don't remember the date when we got to Merkstein, but it was before Christmas, I think. And we had to do guard duty, and we walked 2 guys together, but you didn't walk side by side. One guy would lead, and the other guy was maybe 15 feet behind. So if somebody did snipers shoot at you or something, he would get both of you or something. And if you stepped, it was so cold. If you stepped on a twig from a tree and it snapped, it popped. You could hear it. You'd say, "What was that?" To the other guy, "Hey, what was that?" So we were always on the alert. Yeah.
What were living conditions like during that time period? Did you have plenty of warm clothing, and where'd you sleep?
Oh,
and,
yes.
And food, and talk a little bit about your conditions during that time period. Sounded like when you got to France, you were sleeping in probably a tent in the rain.
Just one night, I think we just slept in the tent. When we get to Merkstein, where we were bombed, that was one of my jobs. Another terrible job I had. Interpreter.
Oh, because of your German background.
I spoke German very good.
Ah.
And I had to go to the houses. Our officer would say, "We want that house, that house, that house, and that one. Tell them to get out." Well, I had to go and tell them, "You're going to have to get out. We're going to move in." And they'd cry, and maybe they had children, "Where are we going to go?" "It's up to you. Go wherever you want. Go. You got any friends? Go with them." So we settled in the homes. We didn't want to sleep out in the cold.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were there for, I think, a couple of months in this town. And we moved from there. We would go different places, remodel, fix roads that's been hit by bombs with holes in them. And we would take our trucks, dump trucks, back them up to a house, and pull the shingles off the house. They were them tile shingles, what do you call them? Mm-hmm. And we'd load them up on our truck, drive out and dump them in a hole. So we could use the roads to travel on. Yeah, and then, well, we did that quite a bit, and then we wound up at the first river, built some bridges there, and that was scary too, because the bombs were landing all around. And A Company, which was to our right, I think they lost 13 men. And yeah, it was A Company. And B and C Company didn't lose any men. And I think the worst thing I saw was when we got to the river. There were bomb holes all over. Dead men laying in the bomb holes with water in it. All puffed up, smelly, Nobody picked them up or anything. That was bad.
Once again, trying to figure out it. you just kept working under these conditions, these bombs flying around, I mean, shells and such. You just had to keep working and keep working, building this bridge. And
Oh yeah, oh yeah, you didn't stop.
what kept you going? I mean, how do you think you kept going under those
I,
conditions, the
I,
stress and such?
we just knew we had a job to do and we had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to do it. Yeah.
Now you said that there was 5 of you brothers over in the service at the same
Right.
time.
Yes.
Did you ever run into any of them over in Europe, or
I sure did.
talk a little bit about that?
This was after the war already,
Okay.
and my brother Harold, younger than I, he was in infantry division, and we kept in touch with each other. And he found out where I was, and this was in France where I was, and he got a leave of absence, and he came to see me. Yeah. So he was with me for a few days. He had to go back.
Did you ever run into anybody else from Loveland or this area by chance?
Only on the way home.
No help.
It was really a coincidence. I was coming home and on the ship, and I was on the deck looking around. I see a guy, and I walk over and said, "Hi, Riney." And it was a guy from Fort Collins that I knew. And so we had a good time on the way home chatting about different things. Yeah, he was quite a bit older than I was. I don't know what, I think he was in the infantry, I don't know. But he was coming home same time I was.
Did you keep in touch with your wife and your folks, and how did that work out? How was that done?
I wrote every day to my wife, every day. And it was just a short letter, and you couldn't say nothing because they had checked all your mail, see if you're...
Censored it?
Yeah, it was all censored. And when she wrote to me, I think she wrote every day, I don't know. But her letters came about 6, 7, 8 weeks later after she wrote them. And while I was over in Germany, and this was after the war. Wait a minute. During the war, I was in Germany yet. I get this letter from her, and she's telling me all about the funeral, and his hair was all gray and everything. I thought, oh, one of our brothers got killed. But she didn't mention no name. So I wrote and I told her, I says, "What are you talking about? Whose funeral was this?" And it was my oldest brother, Art. He had 3 boys, and he was farming over at Wiggins. And one Sunday he was out working on the field, and a storm came up, lightning and thunder. Lightning hit his tractor or his whatever he was pulling, and it killed him instantly. And that's what she was trying to tell me. But God, it was about 2 or 3 months afterwards before I knew what was what.
How was it? Did once you got home and talked with your wife and talked with your mother, particularly with your mother having 5 overseas, and particularly the gap between letters, the time, did they ever talk about how they coped with worrying about you and?
I don't remember writing to my mom and dad, but I wrote to her, Leona, every day, and I'm sure she kept in touch with mom and dad, told them what I would write, or something, I don't know. But they had to cope with it with a strong heart and faith.
Yeah.
Because there's 5 of us that were gone. And I have to tell you this little story. My mom was getting her citizenship papers. My dad already had his. And she went before the judge, excuse me, to answer her questions and everything, whatever they asked her. And the judge asked her, "Do you have any children?" She says, "Yes, I have 11 children. We were still alive, 11 of us.
Mhm.
She said, and I have 5 in the service. He says, Mrs. Bernhardt, you are a citizen of the United States. That was it.
Yeah.
But everything she learned by heart. You know, she couldn't read
Yeah.
or write,
Right.
but she learned everything by heart.
Did they speak English, or were they
Yes,
just
yes, because my oldest sister was born in Russia. And I think she was only 3 years old when they came over here. And they also had a boy that came over with them. His name was Carl. But they lost their first boy over in Russia. And then Carl died in that epidemic in Loveland. He's buried in Loveland Cemetery. And where were we? I got lost.
Oh, just talking about them learning English and.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. My oldest sister could not speak English, so she had to learn how to speak English in school. And of course she talked to my brothers and my brother Art. He was in school then, and they all learned how to read and write and everything. And they taught my folks. They always spoke English till they learned it. And my dad could speak English, German, and Russian, and he could write English, German, and Russian. Yeah.
What was his profession? Was he a farmer as well?
Dad, when he was over in Russia, I think he worked with leather. Yeah. But he was a farmer here in the United States. He worked on the farm till he got a chance to farm on his own. And that's where I was born, on a farm near Loveland. Yeah. I was 14 when Dad quit farming, and we moved to town in Loveland. That's where I graduated in. Yeah.
Now, with your German background, did you have any problem fighting against the Germans? Did that play into your thoughts at all? Or?
No.
No.
No. I never shot at nobody.
Yeah.
We were busy building things, the roads, bridges. We got shot at, and we had our rifle with us, but we never got in close contact with them, you know, to where we would have to. And when we did get in close contact with them, that's when the war had ended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How was it as you're moving along, and you said you go into these towns and would have to talk with the local people? How did they treat you? How was the relationship between you and then
Seemed like it
particularly
was
with your
okay.
German?
We weren't allowed to speak to them, you know.
Yeah.
We couldn't talk to them. So, but when we crossed the last river,
Yeah, let's continue on with your story,
And,
your experience.
we went across this one river with the 5th Armored Division, and we spearheaded with them up to the Elbe River, which was only 60 miles from Berlin. Well, when we got there, we were supposed to build a bridge over that river too, and somebody was shooting at us, so we didn't go. We found out it was the Russians shooting at us. They thought we were the Nazis on the other side, and we thought they were the Nazis. But a day or two later, they found out it was the Russians. Yeah. So that's as close as I got to Berlin, 60 miles.
How did you ever actually physically link up with the Russians? Did you actually get a chance to meet
Oh yeah,
them?
yes.
What was that? What was that like?
You don't really want to know, do you?
No.
They were the dirtiest, filthiest. They didn't look like soldiers. They had all, whatever they could wear. It wasn't even a uniform, you know. Different things, different uniforms. And they were filthy dirty. And that's how we met them when they finally came across the river. And I really don't remember much about the Russians except they were dirty.
Did you speak any Russian?
No.
Didn't know any Russian? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I never did learn any Russian.
Yeah. So, can you describe it as you guys were moving across, as you moved across France and Germany and such, the landscape? What did it look like after being through war? Any memories there? Any thoughts?
Oh yeah, everything was just blown to bits. I mean, there weren't very many houses left in the towns. Most of them were blown up, you know, and it was terrible. The funniest thing I remember is we were traveling on these trucks, and I hollered, "Hey, you guys, look at there! We're back home. There's the 5 and 10 cent store over there." Yeah.
Uh,
What was the 5 and 10 cent store called?
Ben Franklin or
No, it was a different one.
Woolworths?
Huh?
I'm trying to think. Woolworths and
I think that's what it was. 5 and 10 cent Woolworth or something. And we got a big kick out of that because he's an American store, you know.
So once you met up with the Russians and the war was almost or pretty much close to being won there, do you remember where you were and what you were thinking when you heard that the Germans had finally surrendered?
Well, we were still up by the river when the Germans surrendered, and they were coming back in the bunches. 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. And they wanted us to take them and put them in a camp or something.
To get away from the Russians, right?
Huh?
To escape from the Russians, right? Weren't a lot of them trying to...
Oh yeah, they hated the Russians. Oh God, they hated the Russians. They said, "You fight the Russians and we'll help you." Really? But then from the river there, from the Elbe River, we came back and we started building camps and enclosures for prisoners, and went on and on like that until the end of the war, until I think I was over there about 11 months after the war ended.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Before I came on, we built a lot of camps. Camp Butner, I mean, not Camp Butner.
Camps in the way of POW camps or camps for our guys to set up?
Our guys.
Oh, okay.
And we also built camps for PWs. Yeah. That's when they said, "You fight the Russians, we're going to help you," when they told us that.
Tell them what you did after the war. After the war was over, when you were in Germany, what was your job?
Well, when the war ended, our company, we were supposed to go to Japan.
Okay, right, yeah.
Yeah. And then the war ended in Japan, so we didn't have to go over there. But our company broke up, and I wound up in another engineer battalion, and it was a water battalion. And they had a bunch of water tanks, and I was put in charge of some Germans to tear them down. We had these big cranes to pick them up and tear them down, you know. And the first day I was in charge of them guys, I think they wrecked 3 cranes. They didn't know how to operate them. They'd buckle up, you know. And I thought, oh boy, I'm going to get busted and everything else. But I didn't. Instead of that, I got put in charge of well, what's the matter with me?
Prison camp.
No. Where we got all our candy and cigarettes and...
Oh, PX?
PX.
Yeah.
They put me in charge of a PX. Well, I was in there and they'd always send you extra stuff, way more than you needed. So I save all that extra stuff and I put it in a duffel bag, you know. And I had one good friend from Kansas, Leonard Ray. We got a furlough for 2 weeks to go to Paris. So we bagged up all this stuff, took it with us. So we sold it all on black market. And we went to Paris and we were there for a while. And there was a guy there who wanted to get married, a U.S. guy. And all he had was some francs or something different. It was not American money. He says, would you guys help me? I want to get married and I got all this money. He says, but I can't spend it. I can't use it. Yeah, so we were loaded with money because we sold all this black market stuff. Yeah, sure, we've got nothing to lose. So we gave him some money and he gave us his, well, I think they were American things. You know, I sent home these, what do you go to the bank for, honey?
Money orders or?
Yeah, he had money orders. I don't know where he got them. So we got some money orders and I sent a whole bunch home to Leona because you could only come home with a certain amount of money when we came home. So I sent it home to her. She couldn't cash it no place. She had to send it to, I think, New York to get it cashed. Anyway, from Paris, we went to Nice, France. You ever hear of that?
Down Riviera?
Yeah, that's where they got the gambling joint.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was off limits. We couldn't go there. But we did take a ride on a boat and seen it from the water, you know.
Monte Carlo.
Yeah, Monte Carlo. You got it. So anyway, we were there for probably a week. Just having a good time, looking around, running around. And one night, I don't know where we were, but we couldn't find our hotel room. We got lost. And it was probably midnight or something. And pretty soon here comes two headlights down the street. We run out and we're flagging them, you know. It was MPs.
Uh-oh.
Hey, what's the matter, boys? We're lost. Well, what's the name of your hotel? We told them. Jump in, we'll take you over there. We know where it is. But they took us first to headquarters. And the officer in charge there talked to us and we told him we were on leave and everything. And he knew we were overdue. So he says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He says, tomorrow morning, you better get on that train and leave town, or else. And we went back to our camp, never heard a word from nobody about being AWOL. Yeah, we were AWOL for at least a week. And the officers or nobody never said a word. Then from there, I guess, I went to some different camps and came home.
So you said, well, the war ended in Europe in May, and you said you were over in Europe in about another 11 months before you shipped
Yeah,
home?
I got discharged in March.
Of 46?
46, yeah, so from May till March.
Was the crossing back across the Atlantic any better this round, or?
Yeah, it was, yes.
And then back to New York, and then to
Yeah.
Denver. Was it then back to Denver and discharged? And
Yeah, that was a mighty good-looking lady there at New York.
yeah, I'll bet.
Statue of Liberty. Yeah, we went to there again, and then from there I came to Denver.
Discharged. Well,
When was you in charge of the prison camp?
Huh?
When were you in charge of the prison camp?
I wasn't in charge of it. We built a lot of prison camps. Yeah. But I was never in charge of one.
I thought you were.
No.
well, during all that experience, going to North Carolina, New York, across the Atlantic, through Europe, What was it like, you know, as a, like I said, a farm boy growing up in Loveland? I don't imagine you, up to that point, you had traveled much outside of Loveland or much too far away from Loveland. What was that like for really a naive farm boy to see all that in the eyes of?
Well, I'll tell you what, Brad. I met a lot of wonderful guys. I had a lot of experiences and a lot of bad experiences with, well, for one thing, we found a building, a brick building with a hole punched in the side of it. And we went there to investigate, and a bunch of prisoners had burned to death in there. And it smelled something terrible. If you ever smell burnt human beings, you don't know what I'm talking about.
I never have. No.
And that was one of the bad things I've seen. Plus the guys that I seen in the floating in water in the bomb holes. Yeah. But I wouldn't take $1 million for my time in the service. I didn't want to go, but I wouldn't take $1 million.
Yeah, yeah.
There's only, I think, what did we count this morning? How many guys are left?
Seven of you.
I think there's only 7 of us still living from B Company that I know of. Yeah.
But fortunately,
And I call them every once in a while on the phone.
through the war, though, B Company, you were fortunate you never lost anybody in B Company?
No, we didn't lose nobody. A Company didn't lose nobody.
Let's see.
No, A Company lost some guys. B and C didn't lose any.
Okay.
A Company lost some men. They were about a quarter mile to our right.
Hmm. So once you came back and were discharged from Denver, can you describe your homecoming when you finally got home and seen Leona and your daughter and families? What was, do you remember that day and what that was?
It's kind of way back when, but I think I got a ride from Denver then to Loveland, and then I called a buddy of mine, and he came and picked me up from the bus station, and my mom and dad lived in Loveland, so we went there first to see them, and then he brought me to Windsor. Yeah, and it was a tearful day.
Sure.
I was so happy, I cried.
Well, because when you left, your daughter, well, I guess you saw your daughter in North Carolina, but how old was your daughter now when?
Oh boy, when I finally got home at 46 of March, she was 2 years, 2 years and 2 months.
Did it take a while for this stranger, her to warm up to this stranger, or?
Yes, I was a stranger, and Leona would say, "Daddy, Daddy." No, that's my daddy right there. The picture, you know, that's Daddy. Took me a long time to win her over. Yeah, 'cause that picture was her daddy. I wasn't. Yeah.
And what did you do once you were home? Was there a time period where you just kind of relaxed and or did you take off for work right away, or what was it?
No, I came home. Leona had bought a little house here in town. Her dad helped her out. And by the time I got home, she had it all paid for again, because houses were cheap back then. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. Actually, I wanted to be a school teacher. I loved woodwork. So I looked into getting a government
Using the GI Bill and such?
GI Bill for going to college, and I was accepted. But when I found out that I had to live on $60 a month, I think it was, I said, "No, we can't live on that." No way we can live on that. So I didn't go, and I wish, I'm not sorry, I had a good life,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I did then go under the GI Bill doing carpenter work. I worked for John Brassman Company in Greeley. There were about 5 of us armed guys from the service that were working under the GI Bill for carpenter trade. I only worked there about 6 months. One day I told this one friend of mine, I said, I'm going to quit. He said, what do you mean you're going to quit? I said, I'm tired of pushing concrete in a wheelbarrow. I said, thought we were supposed to learn how to do carpenter work. What are you going to do? I'm going to look for a job. He said, okay, I'll go with you. So we went down to see Hansel Phelps. And really, we got a job right away. We were working for brass for about $2 an hour or something like that. Maybe, no, it was less than that. And the government gave us a little bit of money. We went down to see brass and we got hired there. And they didn't say, are you a journeyman or anything. We got journeyman wages. We joined the union. And I was a journeyman carpenter from then on.
And you made your career as a carpenter then?
That and farming. I quit carpenter work in 19... let's see, when did I start farming?
Yeah, you better stay
1978. I think in 1972. No. Anyway, I when I quit carpenter work, I only did it for about 6 years,
Oh, okay.
and I started farming. There was a farmer out here south of town that was very sick and he couldn't farm. And my brother heard about it and he told me, that's when I was living already in town. He says, Starkey's sick and he needs somebody to farm his place. He said, you want to go talk to him? I said, yeah. It was only 5-6 miles from here. And I went out and talked to these people and they knew my mother and father. She did. And they said, yeah, we'll let you farm the place. You use our equipment. Well, I couldn't beat that, you know. That was my chance. So I started farming. I farmed for 7 years. Then I quit and went back to carpenter work until I retired from that because I lost my eyesight so bad I gave it up and went on disability. Yeah.
Let me back up and ask you a question too.
Okay.
When coming home, was it hard to translate or decompress from being in the military to back to civilian life? What was that time period like where you moved from the military back into civilian life?
It wasn't hard
No.
for me, no. I didn't miss the military life no more, and I had to look forward to what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Your
The
transition,
transaction between
Yeah.
Army and
military life, but it was an easy transition for you.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I was home with the person I loved.
yeah.
It was easy.
Well, once you got back, did you join any of the veteran organizations? That
Yeah, I joined American Legion, and I still belong to the American Legion. And I joined a DAV, a disabled veteran, because of my heart. When I was discharged, I had a heart murmur. And I also put in a disability for my eyes, but I never got nothing from either one.
Did you do
Until I finally had to have heart surgery, and I got an aortic valve. I got a cow valve, an aortic valve. And then after that, they gave me 100%. but it took me many, many, many years to convince them that I had a bad heart. Because every time I would go and take an examination from a heart, they couldn't find a heartbeat or nothing wrong with it, you know. So what could I do? Till they had to take it out. Yeah.
And what about keeping in touch with your buddies and reunions? Can you talk a little bit about that? How that you've kept in touch with buddies in the 292 and some of your reunions? If you talk a little bit about that.
Oh, we had some good reunions, some good times, and of course everybody would say we won the war, and they would talk about different things that took place, and I'd say, "What are you guys talking about? I don't remember that." They'd say, "Well, where the hell were you?" I was with you guys. But they talked a lot about different things that happened that I didn't remember no more. That's a long time ago.
Sure, yeah.
And I still call them guys every once in a while, maybe every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Talk to them, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
How much snow did we get?
Well, as we, I guess we'll start winding down this interview, but I'll ask some questions and we'll finish her up. But how do you think the war affected your life or changed your life, played into your life, that time period, or did it?
Well, I think being in the service made a better man out of me. Yeah.
Well, I guess as we get the tail end of this interview, is there anything that I didn't ask you or we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about that I'd left out or we left out that you?
Oh, I don't think so, Brad.
Okay. And any closing remarks or statements you'd like to make as we finish the interview?
I just want to thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And of course, I'll get a copy of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
One for the library?
Yeah, I'd like to donate one to the library with your permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. Well, I want to thank you today for your participation in the interview, and more importantly, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You want to take some pictures of it?
Okay.
This is a newspaper from our company. And it says Germany quits.
Yeah.
There's an article about it, and on the reverse side is war ends and story about Truman, I guess, huh? And I saved that. That was from our newspaper from the battalion.
Oh, I see. It was a special edition because this side of the page is dated Tuesday, May 5th, when the Germans quit.
Yeah.
And the back page here is dated August 15th, when the Japanese.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. There's 9 on that one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is a picture of one of the final reunions that we had. There were 9 of us, but since then, 2 of them have passed away, and there are only 7 of us left. And I still keep in touch with all of them, all 6 of them. My son made this frame for me and put all of my ribbons in it, and my picture, my T5. I was a corporal, and he gave me this for Memorial Day, I think, one day, just a year or 2 ago. Yeah.
And the row on the top's all your various insignias.
Yeah. Those are all the different insignias we had. And I don't see very good, so I can't explain it to you.
Okay.
Maybe Tim will have one on the disc.
Help start up the post over there to hear, Father, the charter members.
For the American Legion?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, as we were closing down this tape, we thought of some additional items we wanted to talk about. So this is kind of a supplement to the main tape. Vic, let's talk about, you were talking about a little German boy, Jackie. Can you tell a little bit about that story?
Yes, we were in Quedlinburg, Germany, and this was after the war had ended. And we had cooks that cooked the meals out in the open. There was a nice little park there, and we would go out and eat our lunch, get our lunch from the cooks there. And when we were done eating, we threw our scraps into a big container or can, and this little white-headed boy that was only about 5 years old maybe, pretty little kid, snow white hair. And when we were done, he would go through the garbage cans and pick out some food to take home for him and his parents. And that was sad. That was a sad thing. But we all took a liking to him. We named him Jackie.
And you would talk with this little boy, and
He couldn't speak English, no.
but you talk German to him, and
I did, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then also we found out that in one of these prisoner of war camps that you had built, that you were the interpreter. Any stories there dealing with the prisoners that, or anything you'd like to talk about there?
Not really, except that prisoners, I think I told you this before, that they wanted to fight the Russians. They hated the Russians, and they said if we fight the Russians, they'll help us. But other than that, for being an interpreter at the camp, was only when the officers wanted to know something, or when I told them they could go down to the river, take a bath. They would go down all together, jump in the river and bathe. I got pictures of it somewhere. And that's about the only thing I did interpreting in the prison camp.
Okay. One thing that it's my fault that I've got to ask this question that I forgot to ask you, was you'd made return trips to Germany and,
Oh, yeah.
and followed your
Yes.
route. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like to go back and revisit some of those?
Well, in 1972, I always wanted to go back to Germany and see what it looked like after the war, you know. So, and was that the first time? I think it was the first time I went over in 1972. And you couldn't tell there was a war over there. Everything was cleaned up and all brand new buildings put up. Everything was new. The only thing that I can remember that was still standing was a church in Berlin when we were there. And they never did restore it, even to this day. I'm sure they left it for a reminder of what the war was like. And of course, then we went over into the East Berlin, where the Russians were, and we had to go over there on a bus, because you couldn't just go over there. And they would take us on a tour on the other side of the wall. And you had to stay in a group. That day we were walking along, and I don't remember what it was. I wanted to take pictures of it, and I left the group and walked over to one side to take some pictures. And boy, I got caught right now, you know, get back in with the group. So that was the only time we got over on the East Berlin. And we saw that church that was in West Berlin, just right by the wall in it, actually. And
now, did you and your wife go over individually, or did you go at a group?
we went together. No, we
with
went
a
over.
group of veterans. It was this
No,
tour.
just her and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we went to Oberammergau in Germany, and we saw the Passion play. Beautiful, beautiful it was. And when we were down there, we stayed in some people's home. They took us in for a few days.
Now, were these people aware that you were a veteran, and did
Yeah,
they
yeah,
talk?
I talk German to them, you know, and my
Did-
wife speaks German
Yeah.
too. And so we seen this passion play down there, and everybody in that town was in that play. It's a big Catholic community, Oberammergau. And then, well, we did a lot of touring. I tried to retrace my tracks where we were and where we went, but I couldn't do it because we were part of the time in East Berlin, and we never did get there. So we didn't get to retrace all of my tracks. But on the west side, everything was clean, and as soon as you hit the border line between the East and West Germans, because some of the West Germany was over on this side yet, it was dirty and dark looking and not kept up, and the houses still had black rooftops on them, like they had during the war. So anyway, we were over there for a whole month. Rented a car, just drove all over. Yeah.
We went to the cemeteries.
Huh?
We went to the cemeteries.
Cemetery?
Went to the cemeteries over there? Did you visit the military cemeteries over there?
She's talking about
Yeah, we did.
she's talking about where they cremated all these people.
The concentration camps?
Yeah, concentration camp. We went there
She's
and saw that.
Break,
Uh, uh,
break.
Now, when you were actually in the service, had you come across any concentration camps? Were you involved with any of that?
Not
or?
me.
Oh, okay.
My brother Harold
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
He was in it when they
They're starting back
rescued
up.
Yeah.
the camp people in the camp.
And then during your travels, you and your wife's visit,
In
she said,
'72 when
she
we
said
were
you
over
guys
there.
went to military cemeteries as well, and
Yeah,
wanted you to have that.
yeah, and they're very well kept. They were nice. And of course, then after a month of it, we came back home, and then in '81, we went back over again, and went over there for another month. But that time, my brother, oldest brother, Carl, and his wife went with us. So we traveled all over again, Switzerland and everywhere, Holland. And well, most of the first time was most of what we did.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Saw the prison camps.
And another thing you wanted to talk about too was your involvement with the American Legion here in Windsor, building the building. Talk a little bit about that. Tell us.
Yeah, the American Legion was started right after World War One, but it was called Forbes McKay. But when we got home from the service, the guys joined the American Legion, and we either got it or bought it from the government, from the prison camp.
That was east of here.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
between Windsor and Greeley.
Yeah.
And it was a officer's mess hall, I think. Well, anyway, we poured concrete in the foundation and everything, and had it moved over to Windsor and set up on the concrete. Then we went to work remodeling it, which there was a lot of guys helped on that.
All veterans, pretty much.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all,
yeah.
most of,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we now have a beautiful Legion home.
She
yeah.
still stands today.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even Tim worked on that building after Vietnam. Every once in a while they remodeled something, you know. And they wanted to remodel the basement, the outside walls and everything. So Tim and I did it. Yeah.
How was it? That leads to a question I'd like to ask. As Tim served in Vietnam. How was it being in service yourself? now being the father of someone overseas, what was your perspective on that with him overseas? Talk a little bit about the perspective of now being the father of a son in war.
Well,
What you felt and
we felt bad about it because it was a war that could never be won, you know. And
do you think you had the same concerns that, let's say, your folks did or Leona did? You know, being concerned about his safety and being in
oh
harm's
yeah,
way.
we were
Yeah.
concerned about him.
And how did you cope with that?
Well, everyday life, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was over there for 1 year, I guess,
Yeah.
or a little.
Did being in the war, how did that shape your philosophy or your feelings about war?
I hate wars. My father always used to say they ought to take the presidents and the Hitler and put them in a room and let them fight it out between them. Let the other people alone.
Yeah.
I hate wars. Yeah.
But you feel that it was better person for it.
Leona said you feel like you're a better person because of the war.
Well, sure I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
We had, my dad was in the Russian army. 5 of us were in the service. Tim was in the service. Had nephews in the service, quite a few of them. We had about 5 generations in the service.
Yeah, and that actually leads to our last thing we wanted to talk about. You said there was 5 of you brothers in the service in World War I or II together, and you're the last surviving member of those 5. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. They've all passed on. My brother Harold just died, I think, last year. And I'm the only one left that was in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only 4 of us of the family that are left.
Yeah.
2 boys and 2 girls.
Okay. Well, the second round. Do we think of anything else we forgot, we left out that you wanted to talk about, or before we shut her down again? Ken, Leona, anything that you can think of that? Okay. All right. Well, once again, thank you very much for your participation in this, and like I said, more importantly, thank you very much for your service to our country.
You're welcome.